Okay, this is the first flight in a long time, and there's been, several days, at least 10, of rain where it's solid IFR, so everybody's busy. An airplane just did a touch and go. There's a King Air that circled me for space, and I figured that was a good big enough gap for me to get in, so I'm taking off. You may notice here that the you can hear the radio transmissions, but they're very, very weak. I think my line was loose, so I'm sorry about that. That's why I'm also adding manual comments. Now, we just heard an airplane calling crosswind, and since I couldn't see that airplane, I'm veering a little bit to the right to maintain clearance. I'll actually turn downwind after I see that airplane pass on downwind to my left. We just heard 22 Quebec indicate that he had a radio problem and was inbound for 22. Everybody else is landing on 4. He can transmit, he says, but he can't hear. At this point, I'm turning downwind. My intention, considering how many people were in the pattern, I figured if I left the pattern, would be hard getting back in. So I decided I would do some touch and goes. Two Quebec had just called that he's entering the downwind for 2-2 from the 45. So it's time to do some thinking. B2 Quebec had just called downwind on 2-2, and another airplane ahead of me is going to leave, was landing at the moment on runway 4, and as you can see, I decided to head west. So another airplane in the pattern had just called base while the other airplane is coming on 2-2. Meanwhile, I'm heading out. You can see west of the pattern, 10 days of rain, which led to all this traffic on this late Saturday in September. It's resulted in some pretty green landscape. At this point, V2 Quebec had just announced that they had turning final onto 2-2. So it's probably getting about safe to turn back towards Culpeper. All right, V2 Quebec just announced they were clear of 2-2, and I've just entered the downwind for runway 4. At this point, I've passed the point that a beam of the numbers for runway 4 and have started my descent. Unfortunately, the airplane, well, there's some days the airplane just wants to fly, and this was one of those. I usually land with 1 notch of flaps, but today, since it wasn't coming down, I added 2. At this point, I'm still high, and I love to slip, so I'm beginning to slip to lose a little bit more altitude. notice the two airplanes on the taxiing ready to take off. And there's also two behind me. Again, it's a lot of traffic on this day after 10 days of being grounded.